Today, I think we're going to talk about a word that is really contentious, and that is the word gender. Well, hello brothers and sisters, welcome to Mission Zero. If this is your first time here, my name is Shawn, and this is The Word with Friends, the show where we take a deep dive into language and communications in order to bring us all closer together. As I said, the thing that I think we should talk about today, the word that I think we could all dive into, is the word gender. Now, the word gender comes from the Latin word genus. And if you remember your high school science class, a genus is a categorization. It's a way of classifying species. And in fact, gender initially wasn't used all that much, but it meant the component parts of a given classification. And in fact, really the only usage for the longest time was as a component of other words like engender, to be representative of a thing. It wasn't until about the 15th century that it started to take on this aspect dealing with sexuality, or rather dealing with which set of organs you were born with. And again, it wasn't until the 70s that it really started to be used as a different meaning than your actual sex. Now, why does that matter? Why am I even bringing that up? I bring it up because the truth of language is that it changes over time. I saw a thing on Facebook. Yes, I still use Facebook because I'm old, but I saw a thing on Facebook a week or so ago that said there are only two genders and then there's a whole lot of mental disorders. And I thought, that's the stupidest, most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life. Now, that instinct, along with the instinct to make that post, is what I want to talk about today. See, the old school of us, and I include myself in that, I'm a 41-year-old cisgendered, heterosexual, married white male. If there's one person and group on earth that doesn't really get to talk about anything, it's mine. But that's exactly why I want to talk about this today, because there is so much angst and so much rage from my generation and before against the snowflakes who want to make the gender box on the forms more than just male or female. But you know what? That's not a battle worth fighting. It truly doesn't matter. See, the truth of it is, yes, God made them male and female is what the Bible says. But that's not to say that we can't create a finer distinction. We've done it all over our languages. What faith meant in the Old Testament is not what faith means in the New Testament. Language changes, it evolves, things become more complex. Do you think Moses would have had any idea how to think about a recursive algorithm? No, these are things that adapt and change as humanity adapts and changes. Maybe you, like me, are a heterosexual, cisgendered white person. You don't understand this idea of gender fluidity or gender neutrality or the spectrum that is everything between male and female. But that doesn't make it less valid. And more importantly, it's not to tear down the existing structures of the man. This is an attempt to define yourself. I wouldn't want to be chained to the idea that because I make YouTube videos, I and Logan Paul are the same. We're not the same person, we don't make the same content, and I don't want to be classified under that same heading. So why should I begrudge someone who doesn't want to go under the classical idea that man equals male with male parts who likes women? That's just boorish. It's just ignorant. For lack of a better word, it is just ignorant. And to argue it, to beat people down and to try and insult them or degrade them because they don't ascribe to your particular ideology is hateful. This fight over gender is nonsense. All we're doing is making thems and depriving people the ability to create us, to be a part of us. And that, as I always talk about, is the purpose of life, is to find the us, find the harmony of us that celebrates our differences, that celebrates our diversity. It's not to tear down your uniqueness, it's to edify everyone else. It's okay if some people want to widen the spectrum of what goes on the stupid forms we fill out. It doesn't matter to your life that it takes you 2 extra seconds to find your checkbox or to fill in your value. Why hold that against someone else? It just doesn't make sense. And so I hope that can bring you a perspective. I hope that can challenge you. And I'm sure some people will rage and hate against this message, but I really want you to think about it, to consider the possibility that maybe you've been just a little too narrow-minded. And may God pour out the blessings of usness on us all so that we can get past these stupid little arguments. And I love you so much. Have a fantastic week.